Welcome to Fantasy or Reality, the GPP. Whatever road you took to get here doesn't matter. What matters is you're here. And my hope is that we all can help one another in this journey.
Hi, I'm Steve, and this is Fantasy or Reality, the GPP. Thanks for checking in with us and listening to another podcast. I appreciate you being here. So first off, I just want to apologize for the last podcast I put out. There is some audio issues from where I recorded from. I've been doing a lot of these recent ones on the road while waiting to get into stops, and I apologize for the background noise. I'm going to make a commitment to start trying to record more in my office where I have my, good microphone and good recording equipment, so I apologize for that. But anyways, so good morning. How are you? It's another lovely morning. A bunch of snow on the ground here in New York, and just waiting to get into my first stop here. So I've been thinking about this because there's a potential I may be going on to a national show to talk about sports betting and the issues surrounding it. And I'm not going to say much more until I know if it's going to be possible or not. But it's been making me think this morning about what I would say. What would I talk about if I actually went on this show and talked nationally about this? And one thing that came to mind is, how do you explain gambling addiction or addiction in general to someone who may not understand? Because I feel like it's hard for someone who has not been through a gambling addiction specifically to understand why. Why did we do the things we did? Why did we lie? Why did we spend so much money? Why did we continue to bet and gamble when it was affecting our lives in such a negative way? And it's very difficult to try to explain to someone who hasn't been through it. Just like anything in life, it's hard to fully comprehend a issue or what someone has gone through or what someone has done unless you've walked in that person's shoes. But the easiest way I can equate it to something that most people can understand is, as Americans especially, our addiction to sugar. Um, Now I'll explain. Like, how many times have you wanted to make a good food choice, or you wanted to eat something healthy, right? You know in your mind you should have a healthy meal. You should cook yourself a healthy meal. Maybe you should have those eggs for breakfast or just oatmeal for breakfast. But how many times have you decided to instead have a donut, a muffin, or some sugary cereal? You know in your mind that sugary uh, food choice is not good for you. You know in your head it's not good for you, but you may go back and forth in your mind. I should have the oatmeal, I should have the eggs, but you're going to make the bad decision more often than not to eat this sugary cereal because why? Well, it tastes better. It feels better while we're doing it. But what happens after you're done? What happens when you're finished? At least for myself, I know when that's happened, I'll be like, damn it, why did I eat that? Why didn't I make the right decision and eat something healthy? Later on in the day, you should just go to bed. You shouldn't have that piece of pie or that piece of cake or whatever it may be. Um, but how many times have you given into that? You know you shouldn't have that. You know you should make a better food choice. You know you should prepare your lunch and bring it to work. But how many times in your mind have you been wrestling back and forth? Man, I know I shouldn't eat this. I know this is not good for me. But you do it over and over and over again. And at least when it came to my gambling addiction, also, I didn't realize how big of a problem it was until I was far too deep into it and had lost a bunch of money and had created a bunch of lies, and I was in over my head. It felt like I had created this boulder I was carrying that I had to get rid of myself. Now, of course, it's not the same thing as a food addiction or just eating poorly, but I can equate it to the same thing. It's like you make one bad food choice and say you're 150 pounds, right? Eating one donut is not going to balloon you to 200 pounds, but you keep making that bad choice. You keep making that bad choice. You know it's not good for you, but I'll just have one more. Tomorrow I'll start my diet. Tomorrow I'll eat better. But tomorrow, what happens? Still make that bad food choice. And then a month goes by, 2 months goes by, 6 months goes by, and then all of a sudden you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're like, what happened? You step on the scale, you're 180 pounds. You've put on 30 pounds because you've eaten poorly every single day for 3, 6 months. And now you can't believe where you're at. And, you can't hide that from your family. You can't hide that from your friends, that's a big difference, obviously, is a gambling addiction is very easy to hide. The outward symptoms are, stress, anxiety, lack of sleep, depression, all things you can equate to many other things. But in the same regards, it's very easy to make those bad food choices because it feels good in the moment. But when it's over, we realize we shouldn't have made that decision. When I make a bet, whether it was, you know, whether it was a win or a loss, I knew I shouldn't have done it, especially those losses. I'd place a bet, even if it was $5, $500. Once it went through and I lost, I had that same regret, that same feeling of what did I just do again? And, to a lesser degree, that's how I would feel when I would make poor food choices. Now today I don't do that. I eat healthy. I am in better shape than I've been in my life, but that's not what this podcast is about today. But that's how I can kind of explain it to someone who may not have had this type of addiction, this type of problem. They've never had someone in their life that's had a gambling addiction. They don't understand gambling addiction. Just think about it in the same way you would think about a sugar addiction. I mean, because I feel like a lot of this country is addicted to sugar. A lot of this country is addicted to bad food choices. And the more you eat bad things, the more you're going to want to eat bad things. The worse you feel, the more you're going to want to eat these poor food choices. And the further you get down that line of eating poorly every day, it's harder to come back. Just like the longer we bet, the longer we gamble, the harder it is to stop. And it can be done. I went from 230 pounds down to 190 pounds and have gotten myself in great shape. And, I bet for off and on for 4 years, something like that. And I've had other addictions in the past, and now I'm well over 19 months bet free. So it can be done. It's not impossible, but the further you go down that road, the harder it is to come back. But just like I said, with these type of things, it's sometimes you're not going to realize it until you're too far into it. So when someone says, I didn't even realize I had a problem. I didn't even realize this was an addiction, which is how I felt. It's the same way as if you eat poorly for weeks and months, and then you look in the mirror and you're like, what happened to me? How did I get here? So that's the best way I can explain gambling addiction to someone who's never been through it, someone who's never experienced it. It's not going to be the same thing. It's not apples to apples, it's apples to oranges. But it's the best way I can explain what a gambling addiction is like and how it's very easy to get in over your head and not realize it. It's very easy for someone to make just one bet, and before they know it, they're making two bets. Because how many times also have you been eating healthy? You've been making right food choices, and then you're out for a night with your friends, or you're just going out with whatever. You decide you're going to have ice cream that night, right? So, but you've been eating healthy for a few weeks or a few months, but now you've decided to have that ice cream. Well, what happens tomorrow? Now, tomorrow you may decide, well, I had ice cream yesterday. I'll just have a slice of pizza. Who cares? And then before you know it, now you've got a week of poor eating. And then before you know it, now you got a month of poor eating. And then you're looking at yourself and you put back another on 10, 15, 20 pounds. And you're like, how did I get here again? It's very easy to slip back into it, which is why someone who has a problem with gambling can't bet. We can't place one bet because one bet's going to turn to two, is going to turn to 10, and it's going to upend our entire life again. So, anyways, I know this is a bit of a short one. I just kind of wanted to throw that idea out there for anyone listening who may not understand a gambling addiction. It's not, exactly the same as a sugar addiction or poor eating and poor food choices, but it's the best way I can explain it to someone who's never had this issue. Um, I hope this has been informative and has helped someone better realize what it's like for who's someone in your life that may have been had a gambling addiction or someone you may know. And other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. I appreciate you listening. Be good to yourselves and each other.
Here's where to get help. You can call or text 1-800-522-4700. That's the National Council on Problem Gambling. Or you could call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. This is where I found the link to my therapist through my local counselor. And then also, we cannot forget our affected others. My wife goes to Gam-Anon every week, and it's been a huge help to her. So anyone in your life who you feel like needs help or you've affected through your gambling, you can go to gamanon.org, GAM-ANON.org. The number is 718-352-1671.